I'm here today in Northern Ireland's capital of Belfast. Standing on the banks of the River Lagan, perhaps best known for the sectarian strife that took place here during the era of the Troubles, which I go into great detail about later on in this video. And Belfast is full of natural beauty, tons of history and super friendly locals who certainly know how to have a good time. But Belfast is also the birthplace of the RMS Titanic. This legacy is recalled in the renovated Dockyards' Titanic Quarter. And it's here you can visit Titanic Belfast, an aluminium-clad museum reminiscent of the ship's hull. There's also tours for all you Game of Thrones fans. But like any major city in the UK, it's clear homelessness in Belfast is on the rise.
Shit living on the streets of Belfast.
Is it?
Yeah, it's just crap. Cool. I got beat up last night.
You got beat up last night?
For no reason. I was in a pack of a press and someone would come over and kick me in the face.
For no reason?
For no reason at all. Don't even know who she is, she's from Derry.
I've been on the streets of Belfast for about 6 months now. Obviously, Belfast, like any other city, it has ups and downs.
Yeah.
Obviously, what brings people to Belfast is the history behind things, more than most things. But it's changing. Things are changing and stuff.
It's getting better, Jordan, is it?
It's getting better, yeah. It is getting better, yeah. I have a younger brother who's 20 and he sectarianism, what we call it, it's changing, yeah. Even the likes of people from England, they're coming over more and stuff like that there. For my situation, it's not good. No. The influx of immigrants into the North Ireland is crazy.
So the immigration problems is causing homelessness, do you think?
Causing homelessness because there's people who everybody has problems and stuff, you know what I mean? But for being such a small city, it's only 300,000 people.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And being part of the UK, we should have better answers, but I don't know. But it is tough, like, you know what I mean? But Belfast is a lovely city. It is a nice city. Like, I believe the Irish people are the nicest in the world.
Yeah. I agree. But the whole of the UK's got a homelessness problem right now, hasn't it?
I don't know, does it?
Yeah. Liverpool's terrible.
I think I can't get a sleep bag, you know what I mean? Yeah. But
what's the help like from the council?
Not too good. If they turn the council, the way the system works over here is for your information and your viewers' information is you go present yourself, say at 9 o'clock, they will try and find like a fresh bed. Yeah. But it could be anywhere around. They'll get you there. Yeah. But they will not get you back. Yeah. And so I found myself stuck 2.5 hours away.
It's no good, is it?
No good. But
how have you ended up homeless, Jordan?
Basically, I was with my partner 5.5 years, and then she ended up buying their jokes. I'm 30. I'm done with that life. Yeah. I just want my own gaff and just want to live my life. Do you get me, man? Yeah,
that's of course,
what I do, you know.
You get to a certain age, don't you?
Like, I love my room and stuff, you know what I mean? Yeah. I got to see things on your mile every day. Yeah. And stuff, you know what I mean? But Belfast, it's lovely. It's a lovely place. Yeah. You know what I mean? Everywhere has its ups and downs.
Of course, yeah.
It's nice to see you walking around it now and you talk to people. We're all friendly, so friendly, like, you know what I mean? And that's just the way we are. It's just like
the Irish and Scots are very similar, aren't they? Very similar, yeah.
You take the words out of my life, but you see so much on TV about Scousers, the gangs and all. That's the same. Gangs over here. Yeah. You know what I mean? These are so similar. Scousers are so similar. Yeah. But I'm waiting a year and like 2 months in social housing, so...
Really?
Yeah.
It's a long time, Jordan, isn't it?
It's like people say to me, are you okay? And I'm like, you look tired. I'm like, well, tired. I'm tired because of fucking...
Yeah. You can't sleep at night, can you? Yeah.
You know what I mean? But listen, I don't want no pity.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know what I mean? I don't want no pity, and obviously, listen, you gotta do what you gotta do, but listen, with Easter holidays coming up, my bank's closed.
Yeah.
And that's not good.
No, business is closing.
Business is closing and stuff. So,
what's the main drug around here?
4 or 5 years ago, it was heroin, right?
Yeah.
Now, no one knew what heroin was.
No, don't know what it is myself.
No, I don't know what it is myself, heroin, I've never seen it. But my problem was with my back, right? I might have a bad back. My doctor prescribed me medication. Then they weren't happening, so I ended up using
it. Yeah. You've heard this before, mate, yeah?
No.
Yeah.
And, but that wasn't even the problem. The problem was I met a girl, a young girl, 20-year-old. She was like looking after a child.
A relationship breakdown, was it?
Yeah. So I'm going to use this after Easter. I'm going to get myself together.
I hope so, Jordan, mate.
I
hope
have
so.
to, mate.
Yeah.
Because if I don't, I'm going to end up dead on these streets here. And there's so many homelessness here.
Yeah.
Why is this a problem? Like there's so many other problems. Like we're in one of the richest countries in the world. There's
numerous problems, isn't it? It's a very complex issue at the minute, but you know, obviously the governments have a lot to say, a lot to answer for, without dealing with things.
They have so much money. It's unbelievable. They do.
But they're putting everything up: gas prices, electric prices, and people are struggling. People are really struggling.
Yeah.
People with jobs are struggling, Jordan. Never mind people without jobs.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah. How can people help you, Jordan?
How can people help me?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I sit here in the morning, trying to get myself a few quid for a pack of smokes.
Yeah.
Something to eat.
Yeah.
20 quid for a bed and breakfast.
Accommodation, yeah.
Worst case scenario.
Yeah.
Then I would have said I haven't touched it.
Yeah.
I have to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But listen, don't get me wrong, my mental health, I have bad mental health problems like PTSD, anxiety, depression, stuff like that. So it's I still have routines, I'm up early, you know what I mean? I still have to keep some.
You've got to, haven't you?
Got to, you've got to, like. But
what was growing up in Belfast like? Was it tough?
Very, very tough.
Was it?
Very tough. Very.
Did you have to be sporty as a lad, or?
Yeah, I had sports and this and that, but you're only allowed to be passing the Catholic.
Yeah.
Simple as that. Or else, and only.
Is it still like that, Jordan? Now?
There is old timers there, like you know, who are like that, like I've arranged to talk to him like
Rangers. Yeah.
Now, if he's Celtic, there is people like that. Like there's people have died because of.
Yeah.
You know,
it's sad, isn't it?
It's sad over football, like.
Yeah. It's sad, man.
Like, but I could go on all day about it. See the war.
Is it safe for me to go down towards them?
Yes. Nah, it's safe here, yeah. And do you want to know something?
Yeah.
A year ago wouldn't have been safe, but now.
The conflict in Northern Ireland is usually explained in terms of the different constitutional aspirations of the two main sections of the community in the region. Many Catholics consider themselves to be Irish and are nationalist in political outlook. That is, they would like to see the whole nation of Ireland reunited and independent of Britain. Whereas most Protestants consider themselves to be British and are unionist in political outlook, and they want Northern Ireland to remain part of the United Kingdom. But to explain more, I've arranged for a local guide to take me on a political tour and share with me his knowledge on the Troubles in Belfast. He's a black cab driver named Stephen and has lived through the Troubles himself. I want to know what it was like in the past here in troubled Belfast and what it's like to live here today, whether Catholic or Protestant.
Right, that they're actually building there is called Divis Towers, and it'd be for working class Catholics to actually live in. So from 1969 through to 2004, top 2 floors, British soldiers and their watchtowers, and the rest of the building would have been Catholics and Republicans. And they're sure the actually same actually building. The actually soldiers there did not move out of that building until Sinn Féin's military wing, provisional IR, they actually gave up their actually guns in 2004. So once that their date came, then that was the official end of all the sort of troubles here, was like that there. So there was always, so during the troubles here, there's about 30,000 soldiers all over Northern Ireland, and there's another 20,000 police here. So during the troubles here, within Belfast here, we've been about 20 peace walls here. So after the peace agreement here in 1998, there was a government quango set up, and they decided to have these here peace walls all down by 2023, right? So nowadays there's about 6,500 police all over Northern Ireland here. So essentially they didn't have the personnel if there's trouble in between these districts to actually take these here walls actually down. So they've built nearly 3 times as many now, and they're all small ones. And essentially, here's the actually smaller ones here. I'll show you these here actually photographs here during the actually tour. So hold on a second here. There's the smaller ones. These are all mainly North Belfast, and there's a few of these in East Belfast. People's gardens on both sides, peace wall right down the garden, and these walls run for about 300 yards, and it's at each end of these here there would be gates, and they're open and closed still every day.
They're still open.
So one side's British and one side's Irish, and these actually walls would be about 14-15 feet tall. Wow. Out there. The actually third wall at the very top end of the actually falls on the shangle is this one here. So that's at the very top of the actually falls here. Yeah. And this one's at the very top of the actually top of the shangle, top of the falls. Sorry, got my sides there mixed up. So there was a soldiers' barracks round about there from 71 through to 97, and the soldiers moved out. So this wall was built in 98, and this actually photograph is taken about 2012 of this. Nice. So essentially, there's the shangle, this here's the falls right there. So that's the actually third wall. In between the falls and shangle, there's actually 3 walls. Yeah. And on this tour, I'll be showing you 2 of them. There's about 12 or 13 leisure centres built all over Belfast. One's in British areas, one's in Irish areas, and one's in middle class ones. The middle class ones are shared, right, but the ones in the actually different sort of areas are still very much.
What would happen if a Catholic went into a Protestant health centre?
They'd be asking who you were, where you come from, like that there. So you would get that questions asked. You would get that, they're said you would like. The reason why I'm doing this here bit first is because in about an hour and a half's actually time here, there's a peace ceremony here in between the falls and the shangle. So this is the shangle gates are those gates, and the falls gates are those gates, and they're open and shut by voluntary workers from the actually falls and the shangle every day during the week. So on your left hand side there, that was an old factory which is now sort of a Pentecostal church it is. Right. And these actually crosses and this here symbol here is all about the peace here. That does that. So where we're going to go to is down out here, out on here to the shangle again. In about an hour's time, there's a peace service in this here garden. Right. Is that just because it's Easter weekend, Good Friday? It's a good. They actually peace accord was actually signed on Good Friday, and that's one of the ways it's done on Good. That's a Presbyterian church here. The actually church itself has one service, and it's on a Sunday, and there's never too many actually cars that are like out there. So these gates here are gate number 1, and they open Monday through to Saturday from 6 a.m. to about 6 o'clock each night, and the key holders are these here businesses on that side there. So they open and shut these here gates. The gates are closed all day Sunday. So at the actually top end of this here business park, there's the smaller peace wall that runs for about 300 yards from this here business park up to a big actually flour mill. And it's at this here actually flour mill there's there's their Peace Park, and there's a set of double gates. They're about 20 yards apart, and inside those two sets of double gates there's this actually Peace Park. So essentially the actually double gates are open and closed by voluntary workers on the actually falls in the Shangle. They open and shut these gates at the same time they do every actually day, and they open about 6:30 in the morning. They're closed every night about 7:30. Weekends might open about 8:30, and they're shut by about 6 o'clock there.
Why do they still close them, Steve?
Because there's John, the thing is here, Belfast is just like, you know, Liverpool.
Yeah, it's very similar, yeah.
You've got gangs, you know,
yeah, of course.
You know, working class areas have got gangs. But over here in Belfast, they're either Irish gangs or sort of British gangs. Yeah. And families want them closed at night time, because what you're going to see in this here tour is there's no distance in between the falls and the Shangle here. Yeah. So young people organise fights over Facebook, so that's why the parents want these gates closed as a comfort actually blanket. These actually parents tell their children, if you want to fight, go and fight in the town actually centre. But these days youngsters wouldn't walk 20 feet. So that's why these here gates are actually shut. Wow. It actually stops young people fighting. It does like that there. Now,
so they're a comfort blanket basically, aren't they, for the community?
That's what it's for, just because, like, excuse me, if these gates weren't actually closed 90% of the time, it would be okay. Yeah. Summertime would be definitely on the bright nights and when the drinks and the wet us out, things like that there. But essentially, you still have sort of a rats here, you know, actually Belfast, but they're small and they're very, very compact, and they're in between streets, things like that there. So up at that there flour mill is gate 2, right, and on the far side of that there, gate 2 is another business park, and at the far side of that business park is gate number 3. And gate number 3 is very, very similar, falls gates and Shangle gates, so they're open and shut at the same time, shut and opened by these actually voluntary workers here. Right. So on the far side of gate 3 is the larger peace wall, and that runs for about a mile, and I'll explain all about that at actually timeable. So at the top end of that, their big actually peace wall is gate 4, and gate 4 is open and closed by camera. So we'll be driving in through gate 4 to go from the Shangle area over in to the falls. Right. Once we're in the falls, I'm going to bring you in to a district called Clonard, which has been about here since about 1870s. In actually Clonard, there's a street there called Bombay Street, and that has been burnt out twice, in 1920, again in 1969. It was actually built again in 1930s again, but essentially summertime 1920 there was Orangemen that went in and burnt it out, and the police forces stood back and watches here and didn't actually stop it. So it was built again in the 1930s again it was. So the same thing occurred second weekend in August 1969. As I said, Northern Ireland tiers get 5 seasons. So in the summertime there's marches virtually every day of the actually week, and in the summer 69, Bombay Street had been built around about 1870s, but it was it ran for about a quarter of a mile from the Shangle over in through Clonard out under to the falls. So when it was burnt out in 69, Catholics then within Belfast and elsewhere within Northern Ireland began to put up barricades, and after a week London then sent in soldiers to take these here barricades down and act as peacekeepers. So the first thing that the soldiers done was build a big peace wall in between the lower falls and the middle of the actual Shangle. And when they built this big wall, Bombay Street was then cut off, so it's now a cul-de-sac it is. Oh, so nice. In it there is one of these here gardens of remembrance. So on the Shangle I'm going to show you a garden as well. Now within Belfast here from about 1970s up to 1990, many bars and clubs in the town centre here shut their doors about 8:30 each night because there's no public transport. Now there was a few bars stayed open, and people who lived very close to the town centre drank in these bars. There was many people caught on the way home drunk. They'd have been picked up tortured or just shot, actually dead. So, you know, you had all this here. So people, if they thought they were going to be safer, they went into bars and clubs in working class Belfast there. Many of these bars and clubs were owned or controlled by the paramilitaries in those districts. So the paramilitaries on both sides assumed that the people in these bars and clubs were themselves paramilitaries as well.
Yeah.
So there was many bars here blowing up, or just gunmen walking in the bars, spraying the bars with gunfire. So there was a lot of people here just out for a night out, wrong place, wrong time. They got there.
That's sad, isn't it?
So there would be about 5 or 6 sites of old public bars all over Belfast here, on the both sides here, British and Irish, like that there. And there's one here on the Shangle. It was a UVF bar in 1975, blown up by Republicans, and there was 5 people in the
UVF,
Ulster Volunteer Force.
Just so people know, yeah.
Republicans would be called, well, you see, during the Troubles here, there was the main one would have been IR Day.
Yeah.
But they were called Provosts because there was a split at the very start of 1970s.
Right.
So there's lots of smaller, you know, Irish sort of groupings as well. So essentially, this here bar was blown up. 5 people in the bar were killed that night. 4 of the 5 were not involved in these paramilitaries. So it's just wrong place, wrong actually time. So in these sites of old public bars here in actually Belfast, there will be remembrance gardens,
yeah.
And in them 70% is all factual. You get photographs and names and dates, things like that. But in these 5 or 6 actually gardens, there's quite a bit about the politics of the situation. It's all about perceptions here. People on both sides here still blame each other on all this here killings and actually violence here. So there's not enough closure here, and I explained why. Because there's about 50% of all these killings and actually shootings have never been investigated, and if they were to investigate them, they get back to senior people on both sides here, and they end up in court. But you know, it's not going to happen. Yeah. There's no truth coming out here. So essentially, most of these victims were from working class families, and they were just put down as being collateral damage. So this is why actually working class Belfast is still all segregated, as we had there. So there's your peace wall just down there.
Just ahead.
And we have to turn down here to go round the block.
If I was to walk down here, Steve, I'd be okay.
During the day, it's just like Liverpool.
Really?
There's no,
yeah.
You know.
What if I'm walking around with a camera? Would people say anything?
They would ask you who you were.
Right.
You know,
would they ask what religion it was or anything like that?
I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
They want to know, you know, who you were.
Yeah. Yeah,
what you're doing there. So there's that big multi-story tower there in the falls.
Oh yeah.
There's the flour mill.
Yeah.
Number 2 gates round the corner, and the smaller actually wall is down there. Now that's where we shall be at the end of this here tour. These are all about British Empire and the British military, World War I, World War II. Now on up there, I mean, now so there's your flour mill gates in there. Yeah. So where the smaller wall starts is here, and essentially there was a street here in spring 1970 called Percy Street, and Percy Street was sealed off because the first soldiers here sent in, they were ordinary, you know, squaddies would have been. Right. And they didn't take these here barricades down until spring 1970. So when they began to actually take these here barricades down, that was the first hostilities in between Republicans and the soldiers. So where it all began to go pear-shaped was in the winter of 1970-71. London then sent in combat soldiers, and paratroopers were actually sent in, and the whole thing just went on the streets, all the streets here. There was things here actually done on both sides. You know, there was actually army done things here within Belfast and elsewhere within actually Northern Ireland that they wouldn't have done in England or Scotland or Wales. So they've done things here, but essentially it was the sending in of combat soldiers just made the whole thing just explode. pardon the pun.
Yeah.
So there's at their Presbyterian church, and at their church there's gate number 1,
Right.
even up there, over up onto the Shangle.
Yeah.
So this is where I would actually normally finish this tour off at, and it mean that we just went in a big circle.
Yeah.
But Good Friday, and at that there Peace Session garden, there's a garden of, you know, there's Peace Session ceremony at about 12 o'clock. So I've done it like this here actually first, so we don't get caught up.
Do you remember much of it growing up, Steve?
I remember from the mid to late 1970s.
Yeah.
So
Was it a tough time for you?
well, you see, it all depended whereabouts in Belfast you actually lived in. So it was very, very tough for actually people who lived down in these here districts, because it was very, very in your face. There was actually parts of Belfast here never experienced this actually violence. You know what I mean? So you lived a fairly sheltered life in certain parts of it, but you became very, very streetwise very, very quickly, and you knew where to go to and where actually not to go to. The thing was that working class families, they didn't have that luxury. They were just, you know, just caught in it. Yeah. 24/7 they were.
So they're the third gates.
They're the third set.
And they get closed.
They're closed 7 days a week.
7
open
days
in the
a week.
morning, close it in the night time. And open and shut by voluntary workers.
Yeah, voluntary.
That's the soldiers' barracks in the rear.
Soldiers' barracks behind this wall, yeah.
So this is where the wall starts. It does here.
Right.
And essentially it runs up this here street. It does for about a mile. There was young people on the both sides of these here gates throwing over petrol bombs and things like that. It was mainly because
This looks recent, Steve. Sorry.
Easter 21.
21?
Just 3 years ago.
3 years ago.
It's like what are the ducks back here? These here things are now. But it was all to do with the, well, it dates back to Brexit, but there's a thing now called the Irish Sea border.
Yeah.
So that's what it was all about. It stopped. This area is called Clonard. It's all Irish Catholic. Well, it's all Irish.
Yeah.
You wouldn't know the word Catholic because there's very few people here going to church.
Right. A lot of Palestinian flags as well, Steve.
Yeah, but that's something else that you'll actually find is that Irish nationalists are very sympathetic to Palestine.
Yeah.
So because of that, their British unionists are very sympathetic to Israel.
Right.
If one side likes coffee, other ones like tea. So there's this here actually garden in here. This is this here street here called Bombay Street, and essentially that was it there in. This was, we've just sort of driven in. There we have actually to it now. These were built 1997. They were knocked down again about 2010.
Right.
So they're just built there in about 2012.
Right.
This here garden at that time was a piece of waste actually ground, which is there. So essentially this here garden I think is only here since 2014 it is.
Really that recent.
And as I showed you on that actually photograph here, there they are here. So I showed you on the photograph here, it is a cul-de-sac it is.
Yeah.
So you actually drive in the top end of it. Newer houses built there actually now. This here photograph was probably taken about 2010 it was.
Right.
So there's your garden, which was there.
So that's
the way it sits there like that.
That's where it sits now. Wow.
And if in actually Belfast, and there would be quite a few sort of homes in beside peace walls here, and you don't feel safe enough, you can get yourself a council grant to build on cages up there. So this is actually painting of this fella Bobby Sands has actually been in this here Sinn Féin Centre's wall since 82 in different versions, and the current version is that there.
Yeah.
Okay, so essentially the actually story behind Bobby Sands is that 1970 through to 1976 here, paramilitaries on both sides here didn't go through the courts. They were just picked up and jailed, and because of that they were given a special POW status. They didn't wear prison clothing, didn't prison jobs, things like that there. So in the summer of 1976, London said to the paramilitaries, anybody who's convicted, anybody who has been caught involved in a paramilitary offence from September, they'd be put in through the courts. If they were found guilty, then they'd just be ordinary prisoners. So from September 1976 up until October 1981, Republican prisoners went on protests inside all the prisons here. Yeah. The first one that done was called a blanket protest. They didn't wear prison actually clothing. Blankets from their beds, wore them. For about 3 years, they actually done one called the dirty protest. Stayed in their cells, didn't wash, didn't clean. When they went to the toilet, they smeared it on the cell walls. That one was called off in late 1980. They've done a smaller hunger strike from October up to Christmas time. 70 prisoners gave up food. They got to the start of December. There had been negotiations in the meantime. They assumed that they were going to get their special terms given back after Christmas time. So the first hunger strike was actually called off. Okay. Nobody actually died on the first one. Good. So in February 81, they hadn't got their special terms given back at that stage. Republican prisoners then began to inform the actual prison authorities that from the 1st of March there would be a Republican prisoners giving up food every week until they got their special terms given back. So it began on the 1st of March. It went right through till the end of September. 27 prisoners went on hunger strike, and 10 died on it. So the first one to actually started was this here guy here, Bobby Sands.
Who's this fella then, right, in the middle?
Right. They're all Republicans from 1916 up to current day, apart from like 2 of them. The guy in the middle is the second hunger striker to actually die. Right. He was called Francis Hughes.
Right. So we're going through the gates.
This is this here Peace Park in here.
Yeah.
So we're now back in here to the Shankill, and these ones are about World War I. Yeah. And the one on the corner is about the British military involvement in Palestine from 1920 up to 1948.
The conflict ended here with the Good Friday Agreement of 1998. I'm here today, exactly 26 years later, Good Friday 2024. I was told before coming here that Belfast is still unsafe to visit, especially in the troubled areas. But my experience here this weekend and speaking to many locals, I can honestly say the city is a safe place to visit, and I fully recommend Belfast. There's something for everyone. I'll certainly be going again in the future, and I want to thank all the locals for making it such a welcoming place. I want to thank Stephen for sharing his wealth of knowledge with me, and I want to thank you, all the viewers, for watching.